Thursday night, October 23, 2025, 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time. Alaska Airlines' entire network goes dark. Not a cyber attack, not a weather event, not a staffing crisis. A data center failure so catastrophic that every single flight across America had to stop. Over 200 flights canceled in hours, thousands of passengers stranded, and this is the second time it's happened this year. But here's what nobody's telling you. This isn't just Alaska's problem. This is a preview of the aviation apocalypse coming for every airline, and it reveals a terrifying truth about the systems keeping you 30,000 feet in the air. Let me show you what actually happened. The outage began around 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, October 24th, with a failure at Alaska's primary data center, the layoff. Primary data center. Those three words should terrify you, because when your primary data center fails, your backup systems are supposed to take over instantly, seamless, automatic. That's what redundancy means. That's what multi-redundant systems are designed to do. Alaska said a critical piece of multi-redundant hardware at our data centers, manufactured by a third party, experienced an unexpected failure. CNN multi-redundant hardware failed. Read that again. The systems specifically designed to prevent exactly this failure failed anyway. This is like your emergency parachute deploying with holes in it. The ground stop lasted approximately 3 hours, and by 5 a.m. Friday, the number of canceled flights from Alaska and Horizon had risen to 360 Sentinel and Enterprise. 360 flights, gone. Not delayed, canceled. That's not just an inconvenience, that's tens of thousands of lives disrupted. Business meetings missed. Weddings missed. Medical appointments missed. And it cascaded for days because additional flight disruptions are likely as we reposition aircraft and crews throughout our network CNBC. When an airline system crashes, planes don't just magically return to where they should be. Crews are scattered across the country in wrong cities. Aircraft sit empty at the wrong gates. Passengers with connections are stranded at hubs. The ripple effect takes days to resolve. One 3-hour outage creates 72 hours of chaos. But here's the part that should keep you awake at night. It's the second IT outage affecting the airline this year. In July, an IT outage halted flights for about 3 hours, Bloomberg. July and October. Same year, same airline, same failure mode. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern. That's a systemic problem they haven't solved. In July, Alaska grounded all of its flights for about 3 hours after the failure of a critical piece of hardware at a data center, CNN. Identical failure, identical duration, which means the fix they implemented after July didn't work, or they didn't implement a real fix at all. They put a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage and hoped for the best. Now they're bleeding again, and Alaska isn't alone. The entire airline industry is a house of cards built on aging technology held together with prayers and duct tape. Let me take you back to December 2022, Christmas travel season. Southwest Airlines had one of the most significant technology meltdowns in recent aviation history when crew scheduling software failed, stranding passengers, their belongings, and crew members all over the country, the Cincinnati Herald. Nearly 17,000 flights canceled over 15 days. 17,000. The airline had to pay a $140 million civil penalty enforced by the U.S. Department of Transportation Star-Tribune. What caused it? Crew scheduling software failed the Cincinnati Herald. A single system. One piece of software that tracks which pilots and flight attendants are where. When it crashed, Southwest couldn't legally operate because they couldn't verify crew rest requirements, certifications, or locations. The entire operation collapsed like a controlled demolition. But it gets worse. You want to know why Southwest avoided the massive CrowdStrike outage in July 2024 that crippled Delta, United, and American? Major portions of Southwest's computer systems are still using Windows 3.1, a 32-year-old version of Microsoft's computer operating software, the Motley Fool. Windows 3.1 from 1992. Think about that. the fourth largest airline in America, is running critical systems on software older than most of its pilots. Microsoft ended support for it on December 31st, 2001. Straight Arrow News. 24 years ago. No security updates, no patches, no support. And they're using it to schedule flights that carry millions of people. The insane part? During the CrowdStrike outage, Southwest canceled just 3 of its 4,390 departures, while Delta canceled over 1,300 flights. Southwest's ancient technology saved them. Their refusal to modernize accidentally made them more resilient. It's like discovering that your grandfather's 1950s car survived an EMP blast because it has no electronics to fry. But don't celebrate Southwest's accidental immunity, because that 2022 meltdown proved their systems are catastrophically fragile. Southwest committed to spending $1.3 billion to update its technology immense after the disaster. $1.3 billion. That's how much it costs to fix decades of technical debt. And they still haven't fully modernized. Now let's talk about what really happened with CrowdStrike, because it reveals the nightmare scenario facing every modern airline. July 19, 2024. A software update for Microsoft Windows operating systems issued by the cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike was the root cause of chaos that unfolded, disrupting airlines, banks, schools, and more during the busy summer travel season, the Cincinnati Herald. Delta was destroyed. Delta canceled more than 5,500 flights since the outage started early Friday morning CNBC, over 3 days. United canceled nearly 1,500. American, Spirit, Frontier, all grounded. Why? Because Delta said that upward of half its IT systems are Windows-based CNBC. Half their systems went down simultaneously. Every critical operation, crew scheduling, gate assignments, weight and balance calculations, maintenance tracking, gone. Delta's chief executive officer, Ed Bastian, wrote in a filing that the meltdown affected 1.3 million of Delta's customers' CNBC, 1.3 million people, and Delta estimated that the IT outage-associated damages were about $500 million CNBC, $500 million, from one software update. But here's the terrifying part. The airline said the outage forced IT employees to manually repair and reboot each affected system and synchronize applications so they start working together CNBC. Manually, one by one. Teams of technicians manually fixed and rebooted more than 26,000 computers and devices one at a time at United Contact Centers located in 365 airports around the world. CBS News. 26,000 devices, manually rebooted, one at a time. This is how you recover from a modern IT failure in 2024. Not automated, not redundant. Manual labor by humans, touching physical computers in hundreds of locations. This is the infrastructure keeping commercial aviation operational, and it's held together by technicians running around airports with keyboards. One of the largest and most catastrophic technology meltdowns was Southwest's in 2022. The ripple effect of systems failing led to millions in fines and a federal government-led investigation of the airline. The airline's reputation was damaged, the Cincinnati Herald. But did the industry learn? Did airlines invest in resilience? Did they build better systems? No. They did the minimum required by regulators and hoped it wouldn't happen again. And now it's happening again. Alaska, twice in 1 year. This marks Alaska Airlines' first major round of IT-related disruptions since they had a similar outage in July and one after a systems upgrade in April of 2024, CNBC. Wait, April, July, and October. 3 major outages in 6 months. That's not occasional technical difficulties. That's infrastructure failure. Here's what airlines don't want you to know. Every major carrier is running on patchwork systems held together by increasingly desperate IT teams. Each airline tends to run on its own system. Delta has its own crew management system, and American has its own crew management system. Nothing is common. This is a fundamental issue in the industry, the Cincinnati Herald. Think about what that means. Every airline built custom systems decades ago. They've been patching, updating, and Frankensteining these systems ever since. There's no standardization, no shared infrastructure, no industry-wide backup. Each airline is a technological island, and when that island sinks, there's no life raft. If the primary data center went down, customers would reasonably expect rapid failover to secondary systems CNBC. That's what Alaska told investors. That's what passengers assume. That's what multi-redundant means. Except it didn't happen. The backup didn't work, which means one of two things. Either the backup systems also failed or they never worked properly in the first place. My money's on the latter, because implementing true redundancy is expensive. Really expensive. You need duplicate data centers in different geographic locations, duplicate hardware, duplicate network connections, real-time data synchronization, automatic failover testing. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars to do it right, and airlines operate on razor-thin margins, so they cut corners. They build redundancy that looks good on paper but fails in practice. They test failover during maintenance windows when systems aren't under load. They never test what happens when the primary center fails during peak operations with hundreds of flights in the air. And then, when it actually fails, they discover their backup plan was fantasy. Alaska Airlines postponed the conference call for its Q3 2025 financial results. Revenue hit $3.8 billion, and net income dropped to $73 million, down from $236 million a year earlier, CNBC. Net income down 69%. They're already struggling financially, and now they're hemorrhaging money from operational failures. We do not yet have an estimate of the financial impact of the operational disruption on our fourth quarter results, CNBC, the company said. Translation, it's bad, and we don't want to tell you how bad until we absolutely have to. This outage will cost them tens of millions in direct costs, passenger compensation, hotel rooms, rebooking, crew repositioning, plus immeasurable damage to customer trust. But the financial impact on Alaska is nothing compared to the systemic risk facing the entire industry. Because this isn't just about one airline's technical failures. This is about the fundamental fragility of modern aviation infrastructure. There has been a history of computer problems disrupting flights in the industry, though most of the time the disruptions are only temporary. The Cincinnati Herald. Temporary. Until they're not. Until the failure cascades. Until multiple systems fail simultaneously. Until manual recovery becomes impossible because the scale exceeds human capacity to fix it. In April 2023, Southwest saw another issue with a firewall failure, leading to more flights being halted. Later that year, United Airlines delayed its flights due to an equipment outage, the Cincinnati Herald. Different airlines, different systems. Same result. Grounded flights. This is happening constantly. You only hear about the big ones. The 3-hour groundings. The 1,000 flight cancellations. But smaller failures happen weekly. Daily even. And it's getting worse. Why? Because airlines are trapped in a technological catch-22. Their legacy systems are failing more frequently, but modernizing is risky and expensive. Alaska Airlines paused flights in April 2024 after the carrier experienced an issue while performing an upgrade to the system that calculates weight and balance, the Cincinnati Herald. See that? They tried to upgrade. The upgrade failed. Now they're afraid to upgrade again. So they keep running systems they know are fragile because trying to fix them might cause exactly the kind of failure they're trying to prevent. It's like refusing to repair your brakes because you're afraid the car might crash while you drive it to the mechanic. The deeper problem is complexity. Modern airlines don't just need one system. They need dozens of interconnected systems, all talking to each other in real time. Crew scheduling, aircraft maintenance tracking, gate assignments, fuel calculations, weight and balance, weather data, air traffic control integration, passenger check-in, baggage tracking. Each system has to communicate with every other system. And if one fails, the cascade begins. Delta Chief Information Officer Rahul Samant said 2 applications were particularly difficult to restart on Friday. One that manages traffic at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, Delta's biggest hub, and another that assigns pilots and flight attendants to planes CNBC. Just 2 applications. But they were so critical that without them, the entire network collapsed. This is single point of failure architecture at massive scale. It's insane. It violates every principle of resilient system design, and every major airline is built this way, because they were all built decades ago when computing power was limited, before cloud infrastructure, before modern redundancy practices, and now they're too big, too complex, and too fragile to fix without risking catastrophic failure during the fixing. Here's the nightmare scenario that keeps aviation security experts awake. What happens when multiple airlines fail simultaneously? Not from a shared outage like CrowdStrike, but from coordinated failures. What if Alaska's data center fails the same day United has a crew scheduling breakdown and Delta experiences network problems? The FAA would face a situation where they can't just reroute passengers to other carriers because the other carriers are also broken. Airports would be paralyzed. Air traffic control couldn't function because airlines couldn't communicate their intentions. The entire national airspace system would lock up, and the recovery would take weeks, maybe months. Think that's hyperbolic? The FAA caused all U.S. departures to be halted briefly in January 2023 when a system used to alert pilots to safety hazards failed. That was the first nationwide ground stop since the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks. The agency blamed a contractor that accidentally deleted files while synchronizing the alert system and its backup, the Cincinnati Herald. The FAA, the organization responsible for safe skies. Their system failed, their backup failed, because a contractor accidentally deleted files. One mistake. Entire national airspace grounded. If the government agency regulating aviation can't maintain system reliability, what hope do airlines have? And the threats are multiplying. We haven't even discussed cybersecurity. Alaska also said the IT outage was not a cybersecurity event, the layoff. They had to explicitly state it wasn't a hack, because that's now a realistic possibility everyone considers. What happens when a sophisticated attack targets multiple airlines simultaneously? When instead of accidents you have malicious actors deliberately crashing systems? Airlines are incredibly vulnerable. Their systems are old, complex, interconnected, and often running on outdated security protocols. They're attractive targets for nation-state actors, criminal organizations, or terrorists, and a successful cyber attack on aviation infrastructure wouldn't just cause delays, it could cause crashes, real crashes, planes falling from the sky because systems feeding pilots critical data were compromised. This incident comes at a time when the airline industry is already grappling with various challenges, including the ongoing U.S. government shutdown, which has placed additional strain on air traffic control systems Strauss-Borelli. The infrastructure is stressed, understaffed, underfunded, and breaking with increasing frequency. So what's the solution? Honest answer: there isn't an easy one. Airlines need to spend tens of billions of dollars collectively to rebuild their technology infrastructure from scratch. They need to standardize on modern, resilient, cloud-based systems with true redundancy. They need to test failover constantly under real-world conditions. They need to hire more IT staff and pay them competitively to retain talent. None of that will happen, because airlines don't make enough profit to justify that investment, because shareholders demand returns, because executives get bonuses for cutting costs, not spending billions on infrastructure that's invisible until it fails. So they'll continue running on duct tape and prayers until the next failure, and there will be a next failure, soon. Alaska Airlines has resumed operations after an information technology problem forced hundreds of its flights to be grounded Thursday night. CNBC resumed, not fixed, not solved, resumed. The same broken systems are running right now, carrying passengers who have no idea how fragile the technology keeping them safe really is. Here's what you need to understand. This isn't fear-mongering. This is reality. Every commercial flight you take is dependent on systems that are failing with increasing frequency. Systems that weren't designed for modern demands. Systems held together by overworked IT teams doing their best with insufficient resources. Systems that will fail again. The only question is when and how bad. Alaska's failure was contained. 3 hours, 360 flights. Bad, but manageable. The next one might not be. The next one might cascade across multiple airlines. The next one might happen during a holiday weekend. The next one might take a week to fix. And when that happens, when the true fragility of aviation infrastructure is revealed to millions of stranded passengers simultaneously, maybe then the industry will be forced to rebuild properly. But until that crisis hits, airlines will keep flying on failing systems. Keep patching instead of replacing. Keep hoping their luck holds. And passengers will keep boarding planes, trusting that the technology will work, unaware that they're passengers on systems that are one data center failure away from complete collapse. The system didn't fail. The system is failing. Right now. Alaska just showed us the cracks. The real collapse is still coming. You've just unlocked a new way to see the world. Join us at ChremaDynamics, where science meets wealth. Subscribe, leave your thoughts below, and let's keep questioning everything that moves our world.